Hello, day 2 of our family consumer science lessons. I am going to show you how to make dinner rolls. I have been doing this for 20 plus years, about 26 years. And I got this recipe in Japan. My kids love it. And I use it to make all kinds of things, but mostly dinner rolls and cinnamon rolls. So I posted the recipe on the Canvas assignment page, so I'm not going to go about telling you all of the different measurements. I'm just going to show you how I assemble the ingredients. First thing I would do though is get your yeast working. Now your question of the day is, what is a leavening agent? Leavening means to rise, and the yeast causes the bread to rise, if you didn't know that. But we use yeast in more than just bread. That's how we get sodas to have the fizz. We put yeast in the soda, and the yeast actually feeds off of the sugar in the soda to make it all nice and bubbly. So we're gonna let that sit. And then in this big bowl, we are going to put the salt and sugar. And I'll get those in and then come back. Okay, so I've already put the salt in. I'm gonna put the sugar in, but I'm not gonna put it all in here because I like to take just a little bit and drizzle it over the yeast. Like I said, yeast ferments while it eats sugar. And so I just drizzle it over the top because it'll get the yeast going nice and quick. And then you're going to take and put a 1/4 cup of butter in the salt and sugar mix. A lot of times I'll have this softened to room temperature, but I didn't do that today. Oh, one thing, going back to our That Sick unit that we did back in December, make sure you clean everything, your countertop, your hands, the bowls, everything before you start cooking. Next step is to put in the scalded milk, which means it's got to be really hot. So I'm gonna get my milk really hot and I will be back. Okay, so I have the butter in and I'm pouring the milk in. The idea with the milk is that it's going to melt the butter or soften it considerably before I put the yeast in. If you put the yeast in too quick, you'll kill the yeast and it won't rise. So the idea is, and I could use my other mixer attachment for this, but you just want to get that butter to melt a little bit. Heat up that sugar so that it melts into the milk along with the salt. And if it doesn't melt all the way, no big deal, because the kneading in that will get it to melt the rest of the way. And notice my yeast is rising considerably. So now we are going to put the eggs in. Now this is why I said to think about our That Sick unit, because the eggs, remember, causes salmonella, and so you don't want to eat raw eggs. So make sure that you clean all your surfaces and everything when you're done. Don't eat I wouldn't eat the dough. I don't even eat cookie dough because of the raw eggs. Mix in your yeast and water. Then we'll put in the flour, and I will turn off the camera. We'll mix in the flour, and then I'll be back. Okay, so my dough is mixed, and let's just talk bread flour for a second. Up until about a year ago, I always used just regular all-purpose flour. Then I bought bread flour just to see what the difference was. Huge difference. So if you've never used bread flour, I would try it. A big difference though is you don't need as much moisture. And so I did not put in all 4.5 cups of flour. I just put in 4 cups of flour, and I actually had to add a little bit of water to get the dough this consistency. So I'm going to turn these into cinnamon rolls. And so I'm going to roll this out, and then I will be back to show you how I make them into cinnamon rolls. Okay, so I've rolled the dough out, and I have, let me remove the camera. I slathered it in butter, and there's quite a bit of butter on there. And then I take sugar and cinnamon, mix them together. I like it heavy on cinnamon, and so yeah. And then I just drizzle it on top until the butter has absorbed all of the cinnamon sugar. I'll finish and be back. So now you can see I have covered it in cinnamon sugar, and now I'm going to roll it. Once I roll it, then I'm going to cut it into about 1 inch thick pieces, and then you put them on a sprayed cookie sheet. Okay, I've rolled it up, and now I'm ready to cut. Okay, they are ready to let rise. I let them rise till they are probably a little bit more than double, but you're gonna have to put them in a warm place. And so I will come back when they are all nice and large. Okay, so the rolls have risen, oven has been preheated, and I'm going to bake them, and we'll show you when they're done. And here they are after baking. We like to just top them off with cream cheese frosting. If you make them into rolls, just take a piece of dough, roll it into a ball about inch and a quarter in diameter, let it raise till double, and then bake it the same way. Have a good day. Remember to answer your question on Canvas.